Hi, everyone. It's October 1st, and my name is Ben Robitaille. I'm here with your real estate market update for the month of September. Today, we'll dive past headlines and go into the data on what's happening in both Simcoe County and Muskoka, break down some common stats, let you know what it means if you're a buyer or a seller in this market, so that if you're making a move in the near future, you can make the most of it with all the information at your disposal. All right, without further ado, let's dive right into it. So first, we're going to look at Simcoe. I'll put video chapters in this, so you can, if you're looking just at Muskoka, you can skip ahead to that. But let's go over a few things here. So if we look at transaction volume, it's actually come up since the summer. So, if we're looking at sort of April, May, June, July, we were kind of in the 500s. We had a small dip in August, but we're back up to 538 transactions for September, which is not bad. It's actually, if we go back to September of last year, we're up from that, 493. Now, where the big problem is, especially if you're a seller, is looking at the number of listings that are active. Sales are up slightly from where they were a year ago. The number of listings has gone up dramatically compared to that. So when we look at a number like months of inventory, which, just to remind you, months of inventory is the number of active listings in a given time period divided by the number of sales to give you the absorption rate of the asset, which is a fancy way of saying if we have 10 listings and 5 sales, it's going to take 2 months for the sales rate to eat up all the listings that are available. So if we have 3 months or less of inventory, we are in a seller's market. If we're somewhere between 3 and 6 months, we are in a balanced market, and 6+ for buyers. So I don't know if you remember during the pandemic when houses were selling within days and multiple offers, we were well under 3 months of inventory. In most cases, we were under 1 month of inventory. A lot of buyers are saying, hey, we've been waiting for a buyer's market, and guess what? We're there now. So if we look at the data for September, we are at 6.54 months of inventory. Now, it feels like a big shift, and that's because it really has been. In August, we had even fewer sales. We had the dip in sales, remember? We had 8.1 months of inventory. But if we go back to the start of the year, interestingly enough, for the county as a whole, we were at 4.52 months of inventory. So if you were listing late last year into early this year, you had a much better chance of selling than if you're listing right now. And I know some pockets of Simcoe County, Midland comes to mind. If I go back to February this year, we actually had under 3 months of inventory. So technically, we were in seller's market conditions. Now, even though sales have gone up, listings have gone up, so this number has increased throughout the year as well. Now, this is the first real pullback we're seeing so far this year. So it'll be interesting to see what happens in October. I know with a lot of the buyers I'm working with, they're very patient and they're willing to wait for the right place at the right price right now. So they're not flooding back to the market with that interest rate cut that we thought we'd see. Now, a little bit of saving grace is the average price and the median price has stayed relatively consistent. I mean, we've dipped a little bit, but that's to be expected. We're in a buyer's market. Same thing with our average price here. What'll be interesting to see is what happens with active listings. Now, typically, you can see this pattern's very cyclical. Every winter, we tend to drop off in listings, and then spring, summer, we come back up. It'll be interesting to see what the drop-off is here in comparison to the transaction volume if people continue to buy throughout this year. So takeaways for Simcoe County, we are in a buyer's market. Now, if you're thinking about selling or buying in any community in Simcoe County, I encourage you to reach out to a realtor. Hey, I work in the area too, so you can reach out to me and look at those specific communities, because just as an example, if we go into, let's say, Tiny, Ontario, where is it here? Right here. You can see that we've been hanging out around the 14 months of inventory. We actually had a huge drop off to 7 months of inventory. So while we're here, I'm quite curious to see what's going on there. We've had well over 200 listings historically there throughout the summer. Transaction volume is what took off last month. So we actually had 31 transactions in Tiny, which is huge in September. especially when you compare it to 19 the month before, 7 in March, right? So that's a huge jump. So it's important to know, if you're looking in specific areas, to know the micro data that's happening in those communities so you can make the most of your buy or your sell. Let's move on to Muskoka. So with Muskoka, you want to take the data with a bit of a grain of salt because we do have a bit of a smaller sample size here. Number of transactions, the number of listings, all those numbers are a fair bit smaller than they would be in all of Simcoe County. So when we look at, say, again, we're just looking at the detached market right now, but we look at transaction volume for all of Muskoka in September, there was 124 sales. Now, that number is up significantly from, say, from the winter months. September of last year, we actually had 134 sales. So we're down a little bit year over year. But again, if we look at the number of listings, this is what's making it feel like a much more aggressive buyer's market. We had 707 active listings versus 806. So that's almost 100 more listings. And months of inventory will reflect that too. For September, we had 6.5 months of inventory. If we go back a year, 5.28 months of inventory. So the market has still continued to shift towards buyers even in Muskoka. Now, what I think is interesting is your average price. Again, it's a little bit more all over the place because Muskoka, you do get some high-end properties that sell that really skew the averages. Median price is a little bit more relevant of a data point. It's stayed relatively consistent over the last little while. I mean, there's bound to be fluctuations, but the market isn't so bad here. The sky isn't falling. Prices aren't crashing super hard. Now, depending on your micro market, things might be a little bit different. But in general, things are holding fairly steady. The average days on market is 46, showing buyers are taking their time. Now, the median days on market is 30. So these are only of the houses that are selling, which is important to note as well. So yeah, that's our market update. I hope this makes a little bit more sense beyond what the headlines are saying, because, you do get articles all the time that say, hey, we have a housing shortage and, the real estate market is going to crash and all these big dramatic things to get you to click on the content. This is the data. This is what's actually happening. And hopefully it can help you make a informed decision when the time's right for you. Again, if you want to book a call with me and we can dive into your micro market, you're more than welcome to do so. I've got a link in the description of this video. We can take 15 minutes. We can take half an hour. We can take an hour if you want. Talk about what you're planning to do and create a game plan based on actual statistical information so that you can make the most of your next move. Again, my name is Ben Robitaille. Thank you for watching this video. If you've made it this far, please consider hitting the like button and subscribe. We'd love to have you to the channel. We try to put out new content every week, and we have a lot more coming to end off 2025, so you'll want to be around for that. Thanks again, and we'll see you in the next one.